So, over the years, JoJo's has been in a lot of media. Of course, there's the anime, which a lot of people do know, and there's the manga, which a certain amount of people know, not as many, but a lot anyways. But did you know that there are also novels of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Most of them are really down to earth and pretty normal as it comes to JoJo's, but there's one particular case where it gets a little weird. I'm talking about the light novel Jorge Joestar, because there are a lot of really weird stands in this novel. Some are weird variations of already existing stands, some completely new ones, or some just completely over the top overpowered ones. But to understand why these stands even occur, I'll have to tell you a bit about the novel itself. Basically, the story revolves around George II, who is the father of Joseph, by the way, who lives on an island, and this island starts to move on its own, and it doesn't just move around the sea or anything, it moves across universes. So throughout the story, George encounters a lot of alternative characters to the ones we already know. Also, there are not just stands, there are also two separate things that are called wounds and bounds. And then there are also the Beyonds, which are a very special case. They kind of function like stands, but they are pretty strong. We don't know much about them, but we do know that they don't need a host, basically. They don't need a stand user. And wounds and bounds are basically stands. They practically function the same, but their creation is special. I won't go into detail about that though. One of these wounds is by far the most icky one of them all, and it is called molting. Its user is called Antonio Torres, and the stand basically just has one weird function. It makes Antonio able to shed his skin once per year. And yes, this is kind of disgusting, but it gets worse. The reason why he developed this stand is because his mother would skin him alive once a year to make some sort of skin painting of it. It's really gross, and I'm really glad it's a novel and not a manga, because we would have seen this disgusting act. There are more stands that are really weird like this, but there are also just normal stands like Golden Experience Requiem and King Crimson do make an appearance in that novel. But others do too, like The World or Enrico Pucci's stands. But many of the stands we know get more strong forms. Like for example Pucci's stands. We have Ultimate Whitesnake, we have Sea Moon Ultimate Requiem, and we have Made in Heaven Ultimate Requiem. Whitesnake Ultimate is basically the only stand we know anything about. Generally speaking, he's just an amped up version of Whitesnake. He can create stand discs and also multiply them, so you can have multiple of the same stand disc. When it comes to the other two, we really don't know anything about them, as they don't really get used. We just know a little bit about Made in Heaven Ultimate Requiem, as he was able to accelerate the time so fast that multiple universes were just flicking in and out of existence. Also, he's able to accelerate the time of just one being or one item or whatever. But there are even more ultimate versions of stands. For example, D4C or Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap and The World Ultimate. Sadly, with the both of them, we also don't know a lot about them. We can just estimate that they are really strong. And we kind of do know that the World Ultimate is able to stop the time more than an hour. Now let's talk about some alternative versions of stands. My personal favorite is the stand Stepmom. This stand is just an alternative version of Sticky Fingers, and is also used by Bruno Bucciarati. The only difference between Stepmom and Sticky Fingers is that Stepmom is using a needle to sew things together instead of a zipper like Sticky Fingers. Another crazy alternative stand version are the Iron Ladies. Go on and guess which stand that is. If you said Sex Pistols, you're right. They are basically lady versions of the Sex Pistols and possess the exact same powers as the original ones. Another really weird one is the stand Blob, and I think from its appearance you can pretty much tell which stand it resembles. Of course, it's Chicolatas Green Day, but it not nearly possesses the same powers as Green Day does. Blob's power is it to create tornadoes, which he can just vacuum anything away with, grab people, or do whatever with. And then the probably most funny alternative stand version of any stand is Stray Dog. From its appearance you can kind of guess which stand it is, and it is Harvest from Shigechi. But instead of an army of these little things, it's just one, and its ability is to control stray dogs in its vicinity. And that's straight up all. Another really weird stand is Twister. It is also an alternative version, but we actually don't know its powers. And from its appearance you can pretty much tell that it is Grateful Death and Prosciutto's stand. But as I said, we don't know anything about its powers. Another really cool stand is the stand U-Boat, which actually is German for submarine. It is an alternative version of Naranja's Aerosmith, and this stand basically consists of an army of little submarines. They are able to shoot missiles and stuff, but also are able to basically protect its user because they are able to swim in bodies and bodily fluids as well. A very strange limitation, but they are very good protection from any kind of attack. Basically what would happen is that the submarine kind of would emerge from the user's body and block any attacks, projectiles, whatever. One really funny stand is the stand of Doppio. It doesn't have a name, but it basically just makes him able to create phones of any item that he finds. A very funny reference to part 5. Now let's get into some original stands from Jorge Joestar. Another really weird one is the stand Evil Dead, and it is just this big floating head. His ability is to hide a certain location from a certain point of view. In the novel he basically hides a harbor from the people on the island, but if you were to leave the island you'd be able to see the harbor. Evil Dead's user is called Sekko. This is not a familiar name, but Funnier Valentine might be. And yes, not Funny Valentine, Funnier Valentine, because that is actually the name of the son of Funny Valentine. Funnier Valentine's stand is called Rear Window, and it's just this little guy with a gun who can open windows anywhere and basically just shoot from them and assassinate targets. A stand that I have a lot of sympathy for is the stand Right Stuff. It's basically just a tiny crew of these little astronaut skeletons or whatever, and they just fulfill tasks their user gives them. The user is Poco Loco. For those who don't know, Poco Loco is a character from the 7th part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And yes, as I said, this stand just basically does tasks for him. It's this little task force or whatever, and they just go and assemble things, and they have a lot of knowledge about whatever task they are to fulfill, and basically just get it done very efficiently every time. A stand concept I have never seen before is the stand Singing in the Rain, and as you can see, it is just this frog-looking creature. This stand is used by Funny Valentine in one of the universes. So don't be confused, he sometimes uses D4C, but sometimes also uses other stands. As I said, multiple universes, multiple iterations of the characters. Whatever, this stand is just a means of transportation. And it is stated that it basically will always get you to your destination safe. So it has its uses, but in combat is just really useless. Another really interesting stand is the stand Grand Blue. Grand Blue are these dolphins here, and they belong to an alternative version of Josuke Higashikata. There is his name, and I can't pronounce it and won't try it anyway, so yeah, this is his name. The ability of the stand is basically also a ride, a means of transportation. But other than dancing in the rain, it doesn't guarantee your safety, but they are able to fly, swim, and kind of defy physics. The G-force or air resistance don't really come into play when you ride one of these dolphins. And then at last, I will be talking about the Beyond. The Beyond is just completely overpowered, and basically you are able to control destinies. That's all basically. The Beyond is basically just God in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure universe, and for me I just think it's meant to represent Araki in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure universe. And yes, I do know that basically Rohan is Araki, but you know, the story is a lot about the meta stuff, like writing the story itself they are in. A character specifically talks about them being inside the story. So in the end, what do I have to say about the novel Jorge Joestar? Well, it's really weird, but it really is worth a read. If you have time and interest in that, just go check it out, try and read it, it's really cool. It just feels like every idea Araki kept away from the manga, he just put there and made something crazy of it. And I really love that. So guys, in the end, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. It would really help me out and motivate me to keep going and do more of these videos. I mean, maybe you've learned something new about this novel. Maybe you didn't even hear about that before this video. Also, you can go join the Discord, because in the future I will match up community stands and determine who would win in a fight. So go there and post your stand so I can have a look at it. Have a good day, and until next time.